Okay.
So we've been talking about the man and the woman who sinned, that first man, that first woman. We know them as Adam and Eve. Interestingly enough, Eve is not known by that name yet. We'll get to that at the end of the chapter, why she's called that. Adam may be referred to by name in verse 17 of chapter 3, but we're not really sure. But anyway, at the very beginning of this, it's the man and the woman. And collectively, the man and the woman are humanity. We are human. And we get to this point where they have listened, or she has listened in particular, to the serpent who was crafty. And I told you about what that word is, arum. In fact, I'm going to go right up there. Crafty or wise. And in Hebrew, that's arum. And they were naive. Adam and Eve are naive. There's a play on words in the Hebrew. Scotty, as you're going to hear a lot of Hebrew words through all this, because Moses, in writing this, is a brilliant storyteller. He's telling this story in such a way where we understand it's not just our background, but we also see in the wordplay what it means to us in a way that would really connect. Wordplay is important in all languages. Picture little children learning how to skip rope. They do it with rhymes and songs, right? There's a reason why we sing, why the quartet's kind of singing, we got special music, why we have hymns. We remember wordplay. We remember song. The melody gets in our head, and the words, the rhyming, the rhythmic structures click, and they become ways that we remember. The Bible is crammed with songs and wordplay because it makes us remember. Little excursus, little side thing here. The Seder dinner that I really was hoping to hold last year, the virus intervened. The Seder dinner, which is the Passover dinner, is considered by teachers, not even Christian teachers, not even Jewish teachers, just teachers in general, to be one of the greatest teaching events ever conceived, because there's ritual, there's food, there's song, there's movement. Every part of your body hears the redemption story of the Exodus and the Passover lamb in that Seder dinner. You hear it, you sing it, you taste it, you smell it, you act through it. Every part of all your senses are involved. It's a brilliant teaching tool. The Bible is rife for that. And the wordplay is very, very important because it helps us remember. It makes connections that we wouldn't make otherwise. All right, anyway. So, the serpent is crafty, arum. Adam and Eve are naive, arum. Sounds very much alike. And the stage is set. The serpent deceives Eve. She eats the fruit. Adam is standing right there, and he eats with her. Last week we talked about the fact that Adam had the ability, according to Numbers chapter 30, to stop her, even after she's eaten the fruit possibly, and say, no, I can't let this stand. I can't let this continue. And he abandons his authority. God shows up. There's a loud noise. It's not a soft showing up. It's a thundering voice. It's a strong wind. It's not just a cool little zephyr of the day. It's a strong wind where God is showing up in judgment. And we have a confrontation. And immediately we see, we saw for a moment in their shame where they had to make clothes for themselves. Now we move into the ramification of what their decision, what their sin does. We pick up in verse 12. The man said, talking to God, The woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the fruit of the tree, and I ate. Blame shifting. And not only that, who does this man put the blame on?
His wife.
And who gave him the wife?
God did.
God did. He's blaming God and the woman for this. Oh, when tragedy strikes, isn't it human nature, our sinful nature, to blame God?
Yes, it is.
It is. Blame somebody else, but in particular, blame God. If God were really good, and He's all-powerful, He just wouldn't let this happen, would He? I'm going to blame God because He's either not really good or not really all-powerful.
But like you said, Adam, during the 6 times or 7
At
times,
least.
he could have interrupted the serpent or his wife Eve and
That's
said,
right.
no, I'm not, no way, Jose, I'm not going to listen to this. No, God said to do it this way, we're going to do it this way.
Right.
We're not going to do it this way.
That's exactly right. And instead of taking the responsibility on himself, he blames God and his wife.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Have we stopped doing that? Has anything changed? Something terrible happens because of our own sin or the sin of those around us. And we immediately start blaming God.
Yes, we do.
And oh, by the way, this other person that you created. We blame God for the tragedies of our own sin or the sins of others, or the fact that we now live in a broken world. All right, so God turns to the woman in verse 13. Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" What does she do?
She tells God that the serpent was the one that deceived her.
Exactly. She does almost exactly the same thing. It's, all right, let's shift that thing right on down the line. And I want to pause there for a second, because in a way, it's just a more subtle way. She does the same thing that Adam did, because in verse 1 of chapter 3, go back there, take a look at it for a moment. Remember, the serpent is more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God made. So we go to Genesis 3, verse 1, the very first verse of that chapter. Okay, the implication is this. There's 2 parts on this. What is the serpent? It's a beast. Who made the serpent? Who made all the beasts? God did. So in a way, Eve is just a more subtle way. She's doing the same thing. Hey, that beast you made, that animal that you made, deceived me. She's doing the same thing that Adam had done, that the man had done, just a little more subtly. Okay. The serpent deceived me, and I ate. Remember, there gets to be a lot of discussion about why Adam's punishment, if you would, and Eve's punishment seems to be different, and a lot of that is this construction that, well, Adam knew better and Eve was deceived. Well, here's the problem. In this whole passage, where do we hear about deception? Who talks about being deceived? Does God talk about the deception? No. Who does?
Eve.
Eve does. What's Eve's spiritual condition right now?
She's dead.
She's spiritually dead. She's a sinner. Exactly. Can we trust everything that Eve says as of this moment? No, we can't. So to build a doctrine on what Eve who's trying to shift the blame is probably not the best way to build the doctrine as to why there's a distinction, a little bit of a distinction between the man's punishment and the woman's punishment. They're both sinful, they both have sinned, or we've already dealt with the fact that Adam had some responsibility to change that, but that's gone now. Now it's just we all have to own up to our own sin. She's not owning up to hers any more than Adam did. They're both sinful. Now, but God has, using this as an opportunity. He went from Adam, who blamed Eve, and he goes to Eve. So let me hear your side of it. You're going to distort the truth as well. And so he turns to where she points the finger, the serpent. And now we get the Lord God talking to the serpent. Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock. What just happened? The serpent was Arum. Now he's Arur. Remember that word play I keep talking about? That Hebrew-speaking audience is going to hear that and go, oh, click. Oh, sin attempts to make you Arum, but it actually makes you Arur. We started out Arumim, but sin made us Arur. The words are connecting here in a powerful way. Cursed are you above all livestock and above the beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go and eat, and dust you shall eat. Now, there are a lot of people that say, well, the snake had legs and arms and feet and hands, all that sort of stuff beforehand, and now he doesn't. Well, there's no indication of that. It was a serpent before physically, and it's a serpent afterwards. The real thing we have to understand is the dust you shall eat. Take your finger here and go over to, by the way, there's a, what's the word for dust in Hebrew? You've learned that word. Adamah. Yeah, Adamah. Adamah. Dust. Adamah. That's where we get the name Adam from. Okay, first off, there's a double thing here. You're going to want to eat this man that you caused to sin. This is this devouring thing going on. But not only that, here's the big thing. We're going to go from recognizing that to start off with Isaiah 65:25. 65:25. Would somebody go to Isaiah and pull that up for me, please? Got to go past Psalms and Proverbs and all that. Get to the first of the prophets, Isaiah. And we're going to right to the end of the book of Isaiah. Next to the last chapter.
The wolf and the lamb shall graze together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and dust shall be the serpent's food.
Dust shall be the serpent's food. Not Adam, dust. Now, we still have something like that, and even now, in terms of, so there's a reference here in the ancient Middle Eastern world. In racing, what do you mean when you say, eat my dust?
You're losing.
You're losing. You're losing, right? Guess what? It means the same thing 1,400, 1,500, 2,000 years BC. It doesn't necessarily mean a road race anymore. And if you're wondering about that, flip over to Micah 7:17. Toward the end of the prophets. Micah 7:17. By the way, just remembering where we're in Isaiah 65:25, obviously this is end-time prophecy when the world is being made right again. All that lamb, lion, ox, all that, animals are now back in a right relationship with each other. We're in a right relationship with the animals around us. And the serpent, who has become the embodiment of Satan, is left to eat dust. So what happens over in Micah? Yeah, he's one of those small prophets. It's easy to flip right over his book. Anybody got that one?
They will lick the dust like a serpent.
Yeah, who will lick? Go back a verse.
16.
Yeah, let's try to go back a verse.
Nations will see and be ashamed of all their might. They will put their hand on their mouths. Their ears will be deaf. They will lick the dust like a serpent, like reptiles of the earth. They will come trembling out of their fingers.
This is at the end time when all those nations that have risen up against God are destroyed. The idea of eating dirt means the same thing 1,000 years before Christ as it does now. It means defeat, utter defeat. And so God is projecting utter defeat on not just the snake, but him who is using the snake. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, back to Genesis 3. Because the next verse, verse 15, is where we really get something powerful and strange happening here. I'm going to have to play with the language a little bit for you to get to see it. I will put enmity between you, he's talking to a snake, the serpent, and the woman. Okay, that's in the now. And between your offspring, in other words, the seed is literally what it says, the seed of the snake, and her offspring. Something happens a little bit here. The offspring of the snake, in some sense, it's a collective plural. The offspring of the woman is singular. Now listen carefully and you'll really hear it out. He, the offspring of the woman, shall bruise your head. Moses, in taking this, has taken the serpent and all that he represents and his descendants, his spiritual descendants, and merged them into one. And the descendant of the woman who's going to crush that serpent is singular as well. God's looking forward to one person who's going to crush
Jesus.
Bingo. Bingo. I shall put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and her offspring. He, that's one specific offspring, shall bruise your, talking to the serpent, your head. You shall bruise his heel, but he's going to crush your head. You're going to inflict a temporary wound on him. He's going to deliver a permanent wound to you. Yes?
Judas Iscariot was the one that gave a temporary, right?
Yeah. Let's put it this way. Judas was the mechanism for this to happen, but I want you to think about it this way. Jesus' death on the cross was real. A real death, right?
Right.
But how long did it last?
No.
Not long.
Not long.
On the third day, it's over, right?
Right.
Okay, it's a temporary defeat. In the end, how long will be the defeat of the serpent and all that the serpent represents?
Forever.
Forever.